Thank you, Lynn. Resurrection song, Choir Sunday. As we gather this morning, surrounded by these butterflies, since that Easter Sunday, many days before this decoration, continuing our Easter celebration, I want to reflect briefly on their meaning of these butterflies. When Phil first suggested decorating with butterflies, I immediately thought of Elizabeth Kübler-Ross, Elizabeth. In 1946, when she was 19 years old, she volunteered to help post-war Europe. He visited Mazanet, is that right? Mazanet concentration camp, and one in Poland, one of those camps. There, Elizabeth, she saw in the children's barracks room, gas chambers, she saw hundreds of butterflies. She saw hundreds of butterflies carved into the walls with their fingernails and rocks. These kids made butterflies. They drew butterflies there. Shaken by this discovery, she later understood that it was a profound message. The children believed they would soon be free, no longer trapped by suffering, but like butterflies, they believe they will be released from their broken bodies into new life. And throughout her life, Elizabeth Kübler-Ross, she used butterfly as the symbol of resurrection and symbol of transformation. In a book called Wheel of Life, she wrote, "Death is not destruction but transformation, and the butterfly reminds us that we are spiritual beings, truly ourselves, taking flight from the body in freedom." Even at her funeral, a butterfly release was held, echoing her belief that death is not the end, but a passage into something more beautiful. Those butterflies carved by children in a place of death, they were the signs of hope they could not yet see, but they believed in. I found these butterfly images from the Holocaust Museum in Houston, America. Like us, the decorations there, the butterflies have this meaning of hope and transformation. Well, in the same way, on the Emmaus road, two discouraged disciples discovered that beyond their grief, beyond their sadness, new life was working right beside them. The risen Jesus reminds us that even in the sorrow, God is already at work. God is doing something, bringing resurrection. Well, have you found yourself in a place where you at least expected to meet the risen Christ, and yet there he was? Have you had that experience? That's what happened to these two disciples on the road to Emmaus. Luke chapter 23, it is ending in full darkness. The tomb closed, Sabbath quiet, and the hope buried. But in chapter 24 opens with glimmer of hope and glimmer of light, the empty tomb and the first hint of resurrection. So the Luke 24, today's chapter has three different parts. First part is the women find empty tomb, and second part is and Jesus meets these travelers to Emmaus, and Jesus blesses disciples at Bethany. And we are focusing on the middle part of chapter 24 this morning, the Emmaus journey. Two disciples, discouraged and confused, they were leaving Jerusalem. Their hopes had died with Jesus on the cross. As they walked, a stranger joined them. They did not recognize him. But later, in the breaking of the bread, their eyes were opened. They realized Christ was alive, and Christ was among them. Have you had this kind of surprising encounter with risen Christ? Maybe not on the dusty road, perhaps but in the conversation, in a meal or simple act of kindness. Sometimes our eyes are clouded like the disciples. We don't expect to see Jesus, but He is there. He is right there in that ordinary moment. There's a story called Rabbi's Gift. Once thriving monastery, like that monastery, had grown small, very small, with only a few discouraged monks remaining. Not many monks there. And the head of the monastery, abbot, now he sought advice from a wise rabbi who simply said, this rabbi is saying to him, the Messiah is among you. This rabbi is saying to the head of the monastery, saying, the Messiah is among you. And the abbot returned to the monastery and said to his fellow monks that rabbi says, the one of us is the Messiah. One of us is the Messiah. And monks began treating each other with great reverence since then. And they were wondering, is John Messiah? Is fellow monk Matthew Messiah? And what if any one of them was Messiah? Then slowly, a spirit of love and respect returned, and the life blossomed again in their community. The Messiah, the risen Christ, was truly in their midst, and these monks treat everybody as they treat Christ in their ordinary life. And indeed, the risen Christ brought a change and gave them a new vocation. Well, last Sunday, I helped lead the combined Easter service with Korean Hosanna Church at St. Andrews. I was there, and it was our only second time we've done this combined service, and about 60 people, 60 of us gathered together. Over the last 2 years, St. Andrews and this Hosanna congregation, the tenant using the building, have built a really warm relationship through different events, and it felt quite good to be continuing those relationships. But I will have to be honest, though, when I heard just a few days before the Easter that Korean congregation would still be holding their own service at 12 o'clock after the combined one, only 3 days before I heard that, I was not sure. I wasn't sure how it would go. Of course, I understood that Easter is a special time for every church. They would like to have their own gathering. But part of me felt a bit disappointed. But when Easter morning came, nearly 70% of their congregation still turned up, joined in the 10 a.m. morning. It's the earlier service for them. And all my worries faded away. Over the two languages, over two cultures, what filled the room was a simple joy in the worship, in the fellowship, in the children decorating. Can you see the cross there? A cross with flowers. And in the middle of all that ordinary, beautiful life, I caught a glimpse of risen Christ. So who is Jesus Christ for us today? Who is Jesus Christ for us today? That is one of the most important questions we must ask. For the monks in the story, Christ was hidden among them. For the Emmaus travelers, Christ was unknown companion who became known in the breaking of the bread. For us, Christ is found as we welcome. Christ is found as we nourish and treasure others, especially the stranger. Jesus is both guest and host. He invites us to open our home, open our hearts, and to offer hospitality that transforms lives. When we treat others with kindness, not just a friend, but stranger too, we create space to meet Christ again. So our answer to that question, who is Jesus Christ for us today? Our answer will shape how we live. That will shape how we love and how we hope. So I pray that in our everyday lives, even in the times of uncertainty, we may encounter risen Christ bringing light to our darkness and hope to our heart. There's this painting called Supper at Emmaus. Supper at Emmaus. Thanks, Chris. And this is done by Caravaggio. This painting, you can watch three people react to the risen Christ, and each in their own way. And somehow, we find ourselves among them. You would wonder why there's three people, because there's two disciples you would expect, but there's one person, we may guess whether innkeeper or someone who's serving, but there's one more character there. One disciple throws his arms wide open, as if the shock of recognizing Jesus was too much to hold inside. His whole body almost leaps out of the painting towards us. He's not even looking at Jesus' face. He is caught by the simple act of breaking bread. It is that ordinary, familiar gesture that finally opens his eyes. There's a second disciple sitting right at the front. He grabs his chairs and pushes back in amazement, nearly falling over. Like his friend, he sees through his action more than the appearance. They both are stunned into speechless physical astonishment, and somehow we pulled into their wonder too. Meanwhile, I think his innkeeper, the innkeeper stands close by. He is watching curiously, but he is missing the miracle unfolding in front of him. He reminds us how easy it is to be near the grace and yet not recognize it. And through all this, Jesus stays calm, steady, offering bread, offering himself. Caravaggio paints not just moment in time, but a chance for every one of us to see Christ in the middle of the everyday. So another question for us this morning is, how will you respond to the risen Christ? How will you respond? Are you like the first disciple, excited and reaching out with open arms to meet the risen Lord? Or are you like the second disciple, so surprised that you can hardly stay on your feet, overwhelmed by the wonder of it all? Or perhaps you are like the innkeeper, close to that moment, hearing the words, but missing that opportunity to find the truth that could change your life forever. Just like those disciples at Emmaus, we are invited to open our eyes to see Jesus not only in an extraordinary moment, but that simple, ordinary gift he gives. The bread shared, the words spoken, the gathering of the people, and a song sung. And it is today is timely that we celebrate the Choir Sunday, because the singing has always been a way God's people have remembered, and God's people recognize his work among them. When God rescued the Israelites from the Egypt, what did they do? They sang in Exodus, telling us that Moses and Israelites sang the song to the Lord. Later in Deuteronomy, God even commands them. God is commanding them, saying, now write down this song and teach it to the Israelites and have them sing it. This song and have them sing it. Songs help us remember. Songs help us to see. They carry the story of God's faithfulness across the generation. And today, as we listen, as we sing, as we are doing just what those first disciples did, recognizing Christ among us, sometimes not through a grand sign, but through a simple, beautiful gift like a meal and prayer. and a song. And a song. So may our eyes be open and may our hearts sing. Amen.